I have two thoughts about the Israel-Palestine conflict, which is a war which began last week and will be ongoing for some time. And in practical terms, it will end like every other conflict. There will be a stalemate. There will be a ceasefire. Things will return to normal, which is bad for both sides. And then things will start to cook up again and to come to a boil. And then hostilities will break out again. It'll go on forever and ever. It will never come to an end. And yet I have two observations, and I think the only two thoughts that to me are important. First, this is not about morality, some kind of childish, infantile, puerile, foolish, modern idea we have today about justice, about morality, about oppression, about fairness. It has nothing to do with that. It has something to do with something else. And secondly, this is very much about America. People are already talking about the Third World War. That's a real scenario. And I believe that if this wasn't started with someone thinking we're going to get America involved, then someone is thinking it now. Okay, first, this is our modern society. We are children. Whenever we get into a fight, it's always about who started it. Who was first? He was first. He started it. No, he started it. No, he started it. He started. He was mean to me. Well, he was mean to me. Well, he did it first. Well, he called me this. Well, he called me that. It's childish. When you talk about the Palestine and Israel, there's always some idiot, some pretentious idiot who gets up and says, "Well, you have to understand the reasons for this conflict. 75 years ago," and then he goes on. He read a Wikipedia page, and he goes on and on about it in this hot air manner. And it has nothing to do with the conflict at hand. No one in the conflict now, those militants running around shooting people on the street, were there 75 years ago. It's not about 75 years ago. And no one in Israel made a decision, that's alive now, made a decision, I'm going to go take the Palestinian lands away. They were born there. All that is over. What it is about now is geopolitics. It's about two peoples, two nations, two groups fighting over one piece of land. It's about getting that land. It's about getting the land to gain power, to gain prosperity, to gain a future, to gain something for their children and grandchildren. Gaining power and getting land is not evil. It's something that you do for good reasons. And both sides have good reasons for what they're doing. You can tell them till you're blue in the face that this all started 75 years ago. You can tell them till you're blue in the face, we suffer more than you. It doesn't matter. The question at hand is, who is going to survive? Who is going to get that land? Who is going to prosper and continue as a nation, as a culture, as a family, as an individual? And you cannot answer that question by giving some theoretical thing about, who's meaner than the other person. And I see this thing that we have, this pseudo childish morality that we have all through life. The success of the woke movement is because of this. It's because we're so childish that we think, oh, well, someone was oppressed first, and so it's not fair. And so we have to, give the land back. We have to give reparations. We have to feel guilty and feel terrible. We have to do whatever because something happened in the past that was unfair. And that is a sign of infantile mentality. It's juvenilism. And I think our entire society is ridden with this. It's just we've fallen into this trap of thinking like little kids, and no one realizes what about life today? What is good for our lives today? What serves our interests today? That is what we act on. That's what we do. No one out there saying, I feel so sorry for the Indians. We're on their land. We stole their land from them. I acknowledge that we stole their land. I'm going to dedicate my life to earning a lot of money, buying a couple of acres, and then giving those acres to the Indians. No one says that. No one does that. They go through the motions, but what they really want is money for themselves. They want security for themselves. They want to eat. They want a car. They want a house. They want their children to have a good school. That's what they really want. Everything else is just propaganda bullshit. But we fall for it. We believe that it's true, and we get caught up in it, and we think, was he really oppressed? Was I oppressed first? Is he a better person because he was oppressed first? And it's nothing. It's only a hobby that we have. It's mental. I had a high school teacher who called it mental masturbation. That's all it is. What we really do, what we physically, practically do in life is not determined by these theoretical discussions on morality. And what will happen in the Middle East now and in the long term will not be determined by theoretical discussions of the morality and who's at fault and who is oppressed more. Hold on. I think that's a real scourge of our society today, thinking like this and not thinking in practical terms, because we're facing people who think in very practical terms. The Hamas thinks in practical terms. Iran thinks in practical terms. Iran saw an opportunity to maybe damage Israel, to do real damage because America is distracted by something else. And they took that opportunity. They didn't do it because they love the Palestinians. No one loves the Palestinians. Sorry, folks. Look at history. No one has done anything good for you in history, and the Hezbollah or Iran getting involved and giving you the whatever they did, helping you do what you did, they didn't do it out of love for you. They did it because they want something for themselves. And same thing in Ukraine. Putin moving into the Ukraine, getting closer and closer to the EU, trying to weaken the EU, trying to get his power more. He's not doing that because of some past oppression or because, like he says, there are Nazis in the Ukraine. He's doing it because he wants that land. Only the Western world tries to make politics based on these childish ideas of morality. The real world out there are enemies, people who are motivated to hurt us and take away what we have, are motivated by very practical things like geopolitics. That's what it's about. And the more we talk about the things we talk about because we're, mentally masturbating, the more they have a smokescreen behind which they can do what they need to do. That brings us to point 2. This is about America. I don't know how it came across that in the middle of the Ukraine war, when America is giving billions, we're going really into debt to help the Ukrainians here. It's a lot of money we're putting into this war. Europe is not putting about half as much money as we are putting into this war. This is an American expense that will weaken us in the long run. It's not a coincidence that this happened while we are involved and committed to this thing in Europe. I can't say who thought up the Hamas incursion or the Hamas attack on Israel. I only have conspiracy theories. My head is always full of conspiracy theories. But I'll tell you what I'm thinking. And that is, I believe it's highly likely, very possible, that Putin and Iran got together and said, Putin said, I could use some help. America is the only thing stopping me from taking the Ukraine. If America got out, or America were weakened, or America had to cut its budget in half, I would have the Ukraine. I could have it. I could take it. And Iran said, well, maybe we can help each other. I can get an attack because in this time, America is weakened and focused on something else. It either will not help Israel if we attack Israel, or if it does help Israel, it will take some resources away from the Ukraine, and that will be good for you. So let's do this together. Now, I can't say that Putin and the Iranian leaders colluded together to take advantage of the weakened America or the distracted America, or to not only take advantage of that, but also to further deplete our resources, to further weaken us, to open up two fronts in a war that we have to deal with at the same time, two fronts, which is really a dangerous thing to be doing. I don't know that they thought about that, and that is the plan. Though as I said, I would not be surprised if that really happened, if they really did talk about that. But in practical terms, that's what's happening. What's happening is that America is going to have to get involved in the Israeli war. Maybe not. Maybe we can stay out of it. It would be good if we got out of it. But we are committed to Israel. And if Israel needs that help, then we will get involved. And if we do get involved, then we're fighting on two fronts. We are spreading our resources ever thinner in Ukraine and in Israel. And that makes us weak. The only thing that remains to do is a third crisis. A terrorist attack, a major terrorist attack like 9/11. Which would further weaken our resources, which would give us another, front that we have to fight on, or something like China marching into Taiwan, or North Korea marching into South Korea. And that's what happens when the elephant in the room, the big guy, gets distracted or is tied down by, little mutts nipping at its heels, and can't deal with the neighbors who are ready to pounce. If in the next 6 months, maybe even longer than that, one of those things happen, a major terrorist event, North Korea marches into South Korea, China takes Taiwan, or something like that. And these are all areas that we would be committed to help. We have military treaties with all these countries all over the place. We are committed to help them. We're the biggest military might in the world, and it's not just because of capitalism. It's because other countries that we are allied with need our help, and that help is set on paper in treaties that we've signed. We've promised if Japan ever gets attacked by China, we have promised to help Japan. It's on paper. If that happens, then America probably will. Well, I don't know. America is capable of doing much more than even it thinks, but there's a chance that America would not be capable of fighting on three fronts at the same time, and that it would just collapse. And I don't mean collapse in the sense that America will just go to hell. I mean collapse in the sense that we will no longer be able to protect our allies. And then our enemies have it. Putin wins, Iran wins. Iran has, allies, more allies in the Arabian world, and can go ahead and attack other Arabian countries and, expand its power. Putin can expand its power. China, Korea, whatever, would be able to expand its power, and the anti-democratic, pseudo middle age, medieval societies based on dictatorships and state heavy, from up to down politics and backward policies and medieval style cultures. They would win, they would gain ground, and the world of democracy, the world of modernity, the world of progress would be pushed back. Maybe that's just an apocalyptic vision. We all love apocalyptic visions. We all love the zombie movies. Me too. Maybe I'm exaggerating. But if I had said something like that in, 1914 or, 36, when Hitler marched into Poland, that also would be maybe a conspiracy theory or maybe an apocalyptic fantasy not to be taken seriously. But it happened, and it can happen again. We are not immune to the kind of horrors that the 20th century brought forth. We can do it just as easily as they could. This part of being a human being, the tendency to march into absolute disaster, will always be a part of being a human being. And so I'm taking my own apocalyptic fantasies seriously. And I'm saying, folks out there who don't think that any of this can happen, folks out there who think it really is about, oppression and justice, remember this one thing, and I think this is an eternal truth. No matter whether you are on the right or the left or good or bad or whatever it is you do, if you cannot stand up for what you have, it will be taken from you. And one more thing. This geopolitical decision, who wins in the end, Israel or Palestine? It's not a decision about justice. It's a decision about who we want to survive, who we want to be there in 100 years. In 100 years, do we want an Arabian, Middle Eastern world which is determined only by medieval-style theocratic dictatorships? Or do we want at least one toehold of democracy and modernity in the middle of that? If you want medieval-style dictatorships to take over that part of the world and to maybe spread to other parts of the world, then vote Palestine. If you want democracy to have a firm toehold there and maybe to spread and weaken the medieval-style dictatorships that are still so popular in the world, then you have to vote Israel. That's the decision. You're on this side or you're on that side. Do you want Israel to survive? A democracy of a people, the Jews, who have contributed more to our society and to our world and to the modern world than any other society, over proportionally to their numbers in the history of mankind? Or do you want them to be pushed out and decimated and given over to people whose societies today are not much different from the way they were 1,000 years ago. That's the decision. I look at what the Jews as I don't know what they are. They're a people. Are they a culture? Are they a religion? Are they an ethnic group? Whatever it is. I look at what they contributed to society, to our world over the last, however many years, 3,000 years, I don't know. And there's it's a little tiny group of people, but their contribution to Western society has been huge, have been far greater than any other culture of that size or of any size proportionally in the history of mankind. They've done so much more. And I just believe that even though it is unjust what happened in Palestine, and the Palestinians were there first, even then, in the end, if I had to make a choice between us and them, between them and them, I choose Israel because it's a refuge for the Jews. And we need the Jews in modern society. Everything that we have today has been influenced by them, and if we want it to go in this direction tomorrow, we need them. And they need some kind of a refuge in this world. That's why I say when it comes down to it, and it won't come down to it. It won't come down to us or them, or them and them or them. It will because it will end in a standstill, and public opinion will stop the Israelis from doing what they at this point probably in their hearts want to do. Next week it'll be different. They'll calm down a little bit, but this week emotions are running high, right? But public opinion will stop them from going too far, and things will return to normal, and it'll be a standstill, and it will be an eternal, subtle conflict that will flame up from time to time again, just like it always has. It's never going to come to a head, to a climax. But if I were forced to make a decision between them and them, I know what decision I would make. I know which of these peoples I want in the world 100 years from now. So let me say this. Maybe, I don't know if it's politically correct to say this. But let me say this to the Jews. In the past, in the future, out there today, whether you're listening or not, thank you. Thank you for all of it. Thank you for monotheism. Thank you for the Bible, for the Old Testament, for the New Testament. Thank you for the book of Ecclesiastes. Thank you for the Sermon on the Mount. Thank you for Christianity. Certainly, I think the best and most powerful religion ever created. It was a Jewish invention. They were Jews who did that. Thank you for Hollywood. Thank you for modern art. Thank you for Bernard Malamud. Thank you for Steven Spielberg, Fritz Lang, Ernst Lubitsch. Thank you for Viktor Frankl, especially Viktor Frankl. Thank you for Hollywood. Thank you for fighting, for struggling, for suffering, for creating, for your creative spirit, for thinking things through, for arguing things through, for lasting, for surviving, for taking the blows that we have rained down upon you and turning around and giving us something. So much. Thank you.